Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and Assalamu alaikum to you all. On behalf of DHA Education System, I welcome you all in my computer class, course code 2210. For week 2 of class C2, I will carry out this session by taking the review of the topics covered in week 1, that was high level and low level languages and their translators. After that, I will highlight the topics that we will cover in week 2 and their learning objectives. I'll explain the content, and in the last, a quick recap will be taken. In week 1, we discussed the programming languages. Programming languages are the languages that are used to write instructions to perform a particular task. Programming languages have their own predefined grammar, vocabulary, and rules and regulation. We need to follow those rules and regulations to write the set of instruction to develop software and applications. There are 3 types of programming languages: machine language, assembly language, and high-level language. Machine language consists of the instructions that are in the form of zeros and ones. This language is harder to learn and is machine dependent and is platform dependent. Machine dependent means that the instructions written for one machine cannot be executed or run on any other machine. Similarly, platform dependent means that if the program written for one operating system cannot be executed on any other operating system. In assembly language code, the source code or the instructions are written using the operation codes and the mnemonics. We use registers to store the values and result of those values. In high-level language code, the source code is written using English-like language or English language vocabulary. There is a concrete difference between high-level and low-level language given in this chart that we discussed in the previous week as well. High-level languages are easy to learn because they are near to the human languages, while low-level languages are difficult to learn because they are far from human languages. High-level languages program require translators, while low-level language program does not require translator. Programs written in high-level languages are slow in execution, while programs written in low-level languages are fast in execution because they are already in the form of zeros and ones and they does not require translation. Then we discussed difference between the source code and the object code. Program written in assembly language or any other high-level language is known as the source code. So the instructions are known as the source code that we use to write in any of the programming language, which is either high-level language or the assembly language. Object code is the program converted in the machine language using any of the language translator, whether it's a compiler, whether it's an interpreter, whether it's an assembler. In last, we discussed about the language translators. We said that there are 3 language translators: assembler, interpreter, and compiler. Assembler are the language translators that are used to translate program written in assembly language into the machine code, while compiler and interpreter both are used to translate high-level language source code into the machine code. But there is a difference between compiler and interpreter. Compiler is used to compile the program, the whole source code all at once, while the interpreter translates the instructions of the program one by one. Both of these translators checks the program for all the possible errors, and if there are no error, they execute the program and show the output or create the object code. That was it for the week 1. Now let's see what we are going to cover in week 2. In week 2, we will cover 2 different topics. We will end chapter number 7 and we'll start chapter number 8. The topics from chapter number 7 are programming errors and types. So students, by the end of this topic, you will be able to define programming errors and you will be able to describe the types of those errors. Then the next topic is IDE. You will learn the definition of IDE and you will be recognizing the console of IDE. That's it for chapter number 7. We will end chapter number 7 by practicing the examination questions. So you will be able to recall your concepts that you have learned in chapter number 7. You'll be able to analyze the questions and you will be able to devise a solution that is appropriate for that particular question. Then we will start chapter number 8, security and ethics. Topic that we'll cover is security and data integrity. By the end of this topic, you will be able to define the term data security and the term data integrity. You'll also be able to enlist all the security risks that are the threat for the data security or the data integrity. Then you will be able to recognize all the possible effects of security risk and you will be using the methods to avoid those security risks. In the end, we will discuss cookies and you will be able to define and describe cookies. So let's start our lesson with the topic programming errors and types. Programming errors. Errors are basically mistakes or faults in the program that causes our program to behave unexpectedly. Here, unexpectedly means that the program sometimes gives the wrong output or sometimes it hangs on. And it is no doubt that the well-versed or an experienced programmer also make mistakes. Programming errors are generally known as bugs, and the process of finding those bugs and removing those bugs from the program is known as debugging. Categorically, there are 3 types of errors: syntax error, logic error or logical error, and the third one is runtime error. Syntax error. Syntax error occurs when violating programming rules or grammar. These are generally known as the typographical errors. When a program is being compiled or is being interpreted, if any syntax errors are found, no translated program is produced. Instead, a list of all the possible errors in the whole program or in one instruction is produced. The programmer corrects these errors, rectifies the errors, and recompiles the program. These are the examples. Like, for example, if somebody has to write print, P-R-I-N-T, and he or she type P-I-N-T, then it will cause an error. Similarly, if you miss a semicolon at the end of the statement or you miss a double quotation mark, then these sort of errors occur. The next one is the logical error. Logical error produce wrong result when you apply wrong logic. When a program is being run, if it doesn't do what it should do, there is a logic error. These can be found by tracing what the program does and using test data with expected result. These errors are very hard to find, but we need to go through all the program to rectify the error. For example, if we were supposed to find the sum of two numbers, 5 and 7, and the formula is sum is equals to 5 plus 7, instead we type sum is equals to 5 multiplied by 7. So in this case, the sum will be printed 35 instead of 12, which is the wrong result. The third type of error is the runtime error. Runtime error hangs program while performing the illegal operation. For example, if you divide a number with 0, you will get an answer which is infinite answer, and computer does not deal with the infinite values. So it will not support this kind of operation. So your program whether will hang on or will stop executing. So these were the three types of programming errors. IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Most of the high-level programming languages offer the use of an IDE for program development. This contains an editor with an interpreter or and compiler together with debugging tools which can improve the speed of program development. Here you can see there are two screens for the IDEs. You can see there is a Python shell. This is basically an editor which is used to write the program. While the second screen is the console of the C language. This is also an editor that is used to develop or write the program of the C language. So IDE in short is basically the editor is the environment that provides us with the facility to write the program, to edit the program, to run the program, to save the program, and to execute the program. Now it's the time to practice examination questions from the past papers. In this way, you will be able to recall the concept and you will be able to analyze the question and you will be able to see the nature of the questions. So let's start up. This is the question I have taken from October-November paper, variant 1.3, year is 2019. This is the second question of the paper. Question is, a programmer uses a high-level language to write a computer program. A part says 4 statements are given about high-level languages. So you need to mark a tick to show if the statement is true or false. Here statements are given and 2 columns are given. One is for the true and the other one is for the false. Okay, so let's start. The very first statement is, high-level languages need to be translated into machine code to run on a computer. Yes, this is true. I hope you people have guessed. Yes, so I will put a tick over here. The second statement is high-level languages are written using mnemonic codes. This is not true. This is false because mnemonic codes are used in assembly language. So I will again mark a tick sign in the column false. High-level languages are specific to computers' hardware. No, it is also false because assembly language or the machine language are specific to the computer hardware. And the last statement is high-level languages are portable languages. Yes, true, because the program written in one machine can be executed on any other machine. So here 4 statements were given, 1 statement carry 1 mark. So in this way you can simply acquire 4 marks. The B part is here. Tick to show which of the following is an example of high-level language. Okay, the first one, the instructions are in the form of zeros and ones, so this is not a high-level language. The second one, where you can see STAINP, STA2, add, these are the different opcodes, so this is not even the high-level language. The third one, although you have not studied the high-level languages in detail yet, but here we can easily understand that the words are very much like the English language, so this is the right option. The third one is the right option, so we will be marking tick here. So this is how we will be solving this question. So the 5 marks can be simply attained by recalling the concept and solving this by applying the simple ticks. Let's take another example. There is another example. This is a question I have taken from the variant of October, November 13, and the year is 2017. This is a 6-mark question. 6 statements are given, and these are the statements about the assembly language. Again, we need to mark the tick whether the statement is true or false. So the statement is assembly language. The first statement is assembly language uses mnemonic codes. Yes, you have made a guess. True. Assembly language program do not need translator to be executed. False, because assembler is the language translator that is used to translate assembly language into the machine code. Third statement is assembly language is a low level programming language. In the context of O level, it is said as a low level programming language, otherwise it's a mid level programming language, so you will be making it true. The next one is assembly language is specific to the computer hardware. Yes, very much true. Third one, assembly language is machine code. No, it is partially a machine code. If it is a machine code, then why we do require assembler? And the last statement, assembly language is often used to create drivers for hardware. Yes, in the very first lesson we discussed this, so it is still in use and is used to create drivers for hardware. So these are the 6 statements. Each statement carry 1 marks. There is another question, and the question paper variant is 1-1. This is May, June, and year is 2015. Here few statements about the interpreter and compiler are given in the table, and we need to mark the tick accordingly. So let's start with the first statement. Takes one statement at a time and executes it. For sure, that is interpreter. Then the next statement is generate an error report at the end of translation of the whole program. So there is a one major difference between compiler and interpreter, that compiler translate the whole source code at once. So this is going to be the compiler. Third one, stops the translation process as soon as the first error is encountered. As you know that interpreter translates the instruction line by line. So if it gets any error, it will stop executing and we need to rectify the error first. So it is interpreter. Then the next statement is slow speed execution of program loops. Slow speed of execution of program loops. That is interpreter. Why? Because if, for instance, there is an error at any of the line, it will halt the process. And sometimes there is one mistake that is causing multiple errors. So in compiler, when the compiler translate the whole source code at once, if you rectify one error, maybe the multiple errors are fixed. And the last statement is translates the entire program in one go. For sure, that is yes, compiler. That is it. We have practiced 3 of the examination question. Chapter number 7 is well ended. Now, I hope you will not be having any problem in this chapter. This was the end of chapter number 7. Now we will start chapter number 8. Chapter number 8 start with the definition of security and data integrity. Data security is about keeping data safe. Many individuals, small businesses, and major companies rely heavily on their computer systems. If the data on these computer systems is damaged, lost, or stolen, it can lead to disaster. So it is very important to keep the data safe and secure. Next is the data integrity. Data integrity refers to maintaining and assuring the accuracy and consistency of data over its entire life cycle, and it is a critical aspect to design, implementation, and usage of any system which stores, processes, or retrieves data. So, data security means keeping the data safe and secure, while data integrity is the concern about the accuracy and correctness of data. There are numerous key threats to data security. Data may get lost or damaged during a system crash, especially one affecting the hard disk, corrupted as a result of faulty disks, disk drives, or power failures. Data may lost by accidentally deleting or overwriting the files. It may get lost or become corrupted by computer viruses. It can be hacked by unauthorized user or and deleted or altered. Data can be destroyed by natural disasters, by the act of terrorism or war, and data can be deleted or altered by employees wishing to make money or take revenge on their employer. There are different security risks to the data, for instance, hacking, viruses, phishing, forming, wardriving, spyware, or keylogging. We will discuss each of these security risks and we will discuss the possible effect of these security risks, and we'll also see the method to avoid these security risks. I'll explain the security risks and their remedies through this chart. The rectangle in the center will display the name of the security risk. Then on the top, the rectangle with green border will be showing the description of the security risk. Then at the left side, the rectangle with blue border will be showing the possible effect of the security risk, and the rectangle at the right side with purple border will show the methods to remove the security risk. So let's start with the first security risk. Hacking. The act of gaining illegal access to computer system is known as hacking. This can lead to identity theft or gaining personal information. Data can be deleted, changed, or corrupted. So there are different ways to get rid from the hackers or from the hacking activities. Number one, the firewalls. You can turn on the firewall of your system. Firewall here, in short, I just let you know, is a filter that when you upload something from your computer to the internet or you download something from the internet to your computer, so it is basically a filter that monitors the activity, and if any illegitimate file is found, it simply snubs that. Then use of strong password and user IDs. The password, which are the combination of different characters, are the suitable ones because they are not easily caught by the others. And use of anti-hacking softwares. There is a difference between cracking and hacking. There are the two terms. Hacking is the generally most commonly used term. Hacking is basically getting the access or breaking into a computer system to steal personal data without the owner's consent or knowledge. So it is, for example, to steal a password file or anything in the computer. While cracking is where someone edits a program source code, that is looks for a backdoor in the software so that the code can be exploited or changed for a specific purpose. This is usually done for a malicious purpose. For example, legitimate software could be altered by a cracker to perform different tasks. For example, send a user to a specific website. So cracking is considered a more dangerous thing because some special programmer needs to do that. What he does, he basically enters into the source code and changes the source code and directs the source code to perform the task which that software or that source code was not intended to or was not developed to do. That was the hacking. And next is the viruses. Viruses are the programs or program code that can replicate or copy itself with the intention of deleting or corrupting files or cause the computer to malfunction. These are the programs which are also made with the intention to destroy or to damage somebody's data. Virus can cause the computer to crash, stop functioning normally, or become unresponsive. They can delete the files or data and can corrupt the files and data. How you can get rid from the viruses? The very first remedy that comes to our mind is install antivirus software. Then do not use software from unknown sources. And you need to be very careful when opening emails and especially attachments from the unknown senders. There is one thing that usually said as backup. Backup is taking the copy of the file at placing it at some other drive or at some other source. So backing a file won't guard against viruses because once the virus is in your system or in your file, then backing up won't work because the backup file will also be containing the viruses. Next security threat is phishing. In phishing, the creator sends out a legitimate looking email. As soon as the recipient clicks on the link in the email attachment, the user is sent to a fake or bogus website. So the creator of the email can gain personal data such as bank account number from users when they visit the fake website. This can lead to fraud or identity theft because in those particular website the user is asked to enter so and so detail, and when the user is entering those details, that is scammed and that are caught by the unknown fraudulent sources. So the remedy to get rid from these scam is many ISP filters out phishing emails, and the user should always be cautious when opening emails or attachment. Forming. Malicious code installed on user's hard drive or on web server. The code will redirect the user to a fake or bogus website without their knowledge. The creator of the malicious code can gain personal data such as bank account number from the user when they visit the fake website again, and this can lead to the fraud or the identity theft. Both phishing and forming are made with the same purposes. Here you need to install anti-spyware software to identify and remove the forming code from the hard drive, and the user should always be alert and look out for the clues that they are being redirected to another website. So when you are using a website, you need to be very alert. If there is any pop-up message that redirects you to another website, you need to be very careful while opening that particular website. And there are the secure websites. So when you type any of the URL in a web browser, for example, www.yahoo.com. So when you press enter, that URL becomes HTTPS, or there is a padlock sign you can see on the URL. So that basically is the surety that your site or your website is the secure site. And if you see there is nothing like that padlock sign or HTTP is written instead of HTTPS, that means this site is something which can be a security threat to your system or to your data. Next is the wardriving. Wardriving is basically the act of locating and using wireless internet connections illegally. It only requires a laptop or other portable device, a wireless network card, and an antenna to pick up wireless signals. It is possible to steal a user's internet time allocation by downloading large files, for example, the movies. It is possible to hack into the wireless networks and steal a user's password and other personal details. So, what we can do to avoid this security risk, we can use the wired equivalent privacy encryption. That is the module that can be used. We can protect the use of wireless device by having complex password before the internet can be accessed, and we can use the firewalls to prevent outside user from gaining the access. So in this way you can make your internet connection secure, and this is how you will not be allowing anybody to use or to share your internet connection. Next security threat is the spyware or the key logging software. Spyware or the key logging softwares are the software that gathers information by monitoring key presses on user's keyboard. The information is then sent back to the person who sent the software. That gives the originator access to all data entered using a keyboard on the user's computer. The software is able to install other spyware. They are able to read cookie data and also change the user's default web browser. These are the softwares uh, that can be installed remotely on your computer and without knowing the user. But for the safer side, what can we do to avoid this security risk? We can install anti-spyware software, and the user should always be alert and look out for clues that their keyboard activity is being monitored, and increase the mouse use to select characters for password particularly rather than typing them in using a keyboard can help to reduce this risk. And last but not the least, cookies. A cookie is a packet of information sent by a web server to a web browser. Cookies are basically small files which are stored on user's computer. They are designed to hold a modest amount of data specific to a particular client and website, and can be accessed either by the web server or the client computer. Cookies aren't programs but are simply pieces of data. They can't actually perform any operations. They only allow the detection of web pages viewed by a user on a particular website and store user preferences. So basically, the information gathered by cookies form an anonymous user profile and doesn't contain any personal information such as credit card numbers or password. Because of the information they do collect, however, they are subject to privacy and security concern. So you can delete the cookies if you are very much conscious about the sites you have viewed, because only the reference of those particular sites will be stored in the cookies. So open the Internet Explorer, open the Internet Properties. From the General tab, you can find the option to delete cookies. You can delete the cookies, you can delete the files, you can delete the history, and in this way all the sites that you have visited will be deleted. Their references will be deleted from your computer. That is it. Now let's take a recap of this lesson. Let's summarize what we have covered in today's class. In today's class, we discussed about the programming errors. We said programming errors are the mistakes we make when we type the program. Categorically, there are three types of errors: syntax error, logical error, and runtime error. Syntax errors are the errors when we make any typographical mistake in the program. They occur when we violate the rules or the grammar of that particular programming language. These errors occur. occurs that way. Logical errors are the errors which are harder to find when we apply the wrong logic. For example, if we were supposed to apply the formula of sum, but we are applying the formula of multiplication, so we are going to get the answer, but definitely we are going to get the wrong answer. And the third one is the runtime error, when we perform any of the illegal operation. For example, dividing a number with 0, that will give you an infinite answer, and computer doesn't deal with the infinite values. So these are the runtime errors. In this case, your computer can hang or your program goes in abnormal execution. Then we discussed about the IDEs. IDEs are the integrated development environment. This is basically the environment which different editors provide us to write the program. So by using those consoles or by using those editors, we can write the program, we can write the source code, we can edit the source code, we can compile that those instructions, and we can run the program. That was the end of chapter number 7. Then we practiced the examination questions of chapter number 7, from the topic high level and low level languages and their translators. Then we started chapter number 8 with the definition of security and integrity of data. Security in simple word means the safety of your data, and integrity in simple word means consistency or correctness or accurateness of your data. So whenever it is your data which you are sharing or which you are transmitting, so the security and integrity of data are two of the major security concerns. And then we talked about the security risks and the methods to avoid those security risks. Categorically, we talked about hacking, we talked about the second one was viruses, yes. Then we talked about phishing and forming, we talked about Wardriving, and we talked about in last spywares, yes. And we also discussed the methods to avoid these security risks. In general, we need to be very careful when we are using the internet. We are not supposed to open the emails from the unknown sources. We are not supposed to open the sites which take us or which redirect us to the other sites. We are supposed to use very strong passwords. We are supposed to use antivirus softwares. We are supposed to use anti-spyware softwares. So by just taking care of these few things, we can minimize the security risk, and we can keep our data secure and integral. In the end, we discussed the cookies. Cookies are the small files which are actually the reference of the sites which we have visited through the browser, and these are, although not a very high security risk, but generally we need to know that cookies are also something that takes the information when we are using the internet, that keeps the information what we are viewing from the internet. That is it. Now you may download assignment and resources from the DHE portal. Hope you will not find any difficulty in solving those questions. Thank you so much for listening carefully.